Techies, Techettes, and another installment of the AMD Softwares Among Us. 20.3.1 comes into us fresh with a new polished point, but there are still some points. Me playing with the software now for about a day and running my NVIDIA patchwork below me, so if you are tuned to the channel for that as well, I'm working on that, you guys and gals, I got you. But going back to the portions of where I was getting at was I wanted to go over a few different things that was going to go on to the new platform of the patchwork. And you know, I noticed that there's an issue, and it's not AMD, and I'm going to get into that later on in the other portion of the video. For right now, we're going to get to patchwork, and we're going to show some really cool benchmarks. And if you're here at the MacGyver 7th channel, and my name is Mac, and we're going to get to some really fun tech news. So let's go ahead and hop into our patch notes and see what AMD is telling us that has changed. With looking at the infinity fabric of what we have in the webs, you can see that they have Dune, the internal, achieving up to 5% performance with inside that situation in the ultra nightmare settings. Now you have the 1080p Radeon with the RX 5700 list of the Adrenalin software, and they were testing that between the situations of what had gone between the 20.2.2, which I did cover a really cool segment about 2019 versus 2020, and if you haven't watched that, I'm going to be posting it at the very end of the video. You should totally check it out. It's a fun way to kind of see, is 2020 really worth it? It kind of is, depending departments of what you're looking for. Now, where we're looking at portions past that, as we kind of bring in the charts a little bit closer for the support, you see that Half-Life makes its list as well for as far as the situation. Pretty neat. Maybe one day we actually might get an actual Half-Life 3, but I'm just going to say that under my breath because we should have had it a long time ago. Ghost Recon also makes the list for as far as the breaking point inside of the Vulkan API. Vulkan is a big portion of what's going on inside of this, and one of the things that I wanted to get before we go into the Vulkan support is that when you're looking at some of the things that are happening inside of there, one of the things that I got to understand between updates to updates between this one, because when I tested it, I consistently got some interesting benchmarks that we'll get in towards the end, and it was Windows. Windows put out a string of very interesting new updates that kind of tanked a lot of performance in my opinion, which brought the black screen flicker, which I was getting into, not to go off too much into a tech tangent, of the situation of what was happening, because I noticed now that everything's up to date on Windows and they finally have kind of a decent fix, which they probably screwed up on leap year. If I took a tech like jab at them, it probably would happen. A lot of companies forgot about it. Moving on past that 4-year correction, the point that I'm getting at is now, like, OBS, the program I had to update around there, and I noticed inconsistencies for a few days. So the performance, when they finally got all these things tuned, tanked it down a little bit. So I luckily run tests before and after on the current updates of what the OS app is, so you'll have a fun time digging your I guess pixels into towards the end of that episode. But for right now, let's go ahead and go back to the Vulkan support and see what we're going to get to. I just wanted to let you know that the black screen is still kind of prevalent with a little bit of flickers here and there. I've noticed, especially if you're running a dual display. Leave a comment down below if you are getting game experiences like that. I would like to hear what the community is, so let me know what your processor is and your physical portion of GPU and tetherment. That would be kind of cool. I'd really like to know. But closer analogous, besides that situation of letting the information station come down out in your tech hardware, is the extension as far as the support and shaders in the modules that utilize the SPV-KHR post depth inside of that cover extension. Now the fragment shaders utilizing the SPC expansion will come to the control of the simple point of the sample mask build inside of the reflect points and coverages for as far as what you'll be seeing. Now this is an extension only for the support of the RDNA hardware. Looking at the situation for as far as shaders and the schematics of what they're getting down to, they offer another portion of shader modules as they go into the schematic information station of the non-schematic instructions of what they're getting down to. The text buffers also get a little bit of a Q alignment for as far as the unformed portions of the uniformity that they're aiming for in the storage portion of the texture buffs and the cannot be communicated versus the linear textures. Besides that, the pipeline and the creation for as far as the control and the cache, those situations have a extension for as far as the provide flags that could be utilized in the application and the incurring portions of high potential costs inside of that situation of the pipeline creation. So that's going to be able to free up for as far as transferring back and forth. I know a lot of these things that they read and recite sound like very mumbo jumbo-y, but this is basically what makes your pixels look beautiful. Now we're getting into a ton of fixes, from the situation of the frame skipping inside of the cropped audio, or the experience inside the video capture in the Radeon Live. Personally myself, I never really been a fan of it, but if you would have asked me about a week ago, I'd have been like, well, I'll try it out because OBS is acting weird like it's possessed out of some poltergeist movie. But you know, the guy from OBS is pretty badass, and like he came up with a really cool fix. Cheers, OBS team. Anywho, going on past that, if you aren't utilizing that situation, you can also go to the games and the experiencing shutters for as far as the instant replay on the third application on the stream and the performance of the stream captures. So a lot of these are basically coming down to the relive and the repolishing, even having the hotkey for as far as the failure inside of the scene editor, which would be more streamlined for people that are trying to aim for that creation. Now looking on past that situation, the webcam element comes into appearance as you look down the failed appeared screen for as far as the custom location inside of the relive recording. And that had kind of been an issue I've been noticing otherwise, and I feel like that they're probably fixing these because of Windows, because this was almost exactly identical to a lot of stuff that was happening to OBS, which furthers my point in talk that we'll get into the performance statures of how almost it was insane. I was just like, what the? It was weird. But looking at that portion past that, what we have that of the AMD A series and the E series of the APU processors will reflect an older Radeon 2019 settings for as far as the interface, because it utilizes that situation of software to run. They're not back, but they were just made in a different era as RDNA starts becoming a little bit more of the prominent edge of what AMD has to offer. Now looking at the 0 RPMs and the toggle for as far as the failed resets and the appearing and the disable advancements, the fan and the tuning optimal points has hopefully come to a performance tuning, and I stress that sometimes because, you know, a lot of these situations, what comes into gameplay is you're like sitting there and all of a sudden your fan's acting weird, you're hitting the default setting and you're like, what's going on? But let's get back to the news. As they give us a little bit more of the RPMs for as far as failing, then the Radeon software may automatically close when relive inside the situation of streaming in the start and stop. Now, personally me, I've never really had that happen, but maybe someone is, and if they are, I'd like to know what card that's occurring on. For as far as the desktop and the cursor and the intermediate points of the remained visible after toggle inside of the situation of the Radeon software overlay in some games. That should hopefully be something that is no longer. Red Dead Redemption may experience some of the situations of black screens when launching when utilizing the Vulkan API. No more, they say. Is that true? Is the Dusty Trail a little bit more of the black screen of what the hell? Looking at the Radeon software for as far as the may experience some application crash, a system TDR may occur when utilizing the VRAM reaching 8 gigs or more of the HBCC inside of the Radeon RX Vega series, which sounds a lot like issues that may be in my Radeon 7 because it utilizes similar, but it's really fast RAM and it has a lot more of it. It's pretty cool. Looking at past that, the Doom may experiencing the intermittent system hangups for as far as the crash and gameplay should be something that is more smooth nowadays. Space engineers may experience the application and the hangups for as far as the gameplay inside of the grass Destiny is turned on. For as far as the situation of the systems and or having the black screen occur within the VR world, you have multiple screens. This is something that I can definitely concur because I utilize multiple screens within my Radeon card and have this experienceable point where is there. Now looking on past that, where the video playback may experience inside of the corruption and the interlaced portion of the movies while utilizing your Ryzen 3000 on the graphics processor. The pass for as far as the mark in the situation of may experiencing the application hangups on top of the Radeon situation of the, again, processors. Now looking on towards the RX Vegas and the old discrete GPUs on the APUs enable the portionable portions of the display scaling could result inside of a reduction in frame rate. For as far as the integral display making the list yet again, you also have the scaling may not be able to show for as far as the Radeon software on the GCN based GPUs. For the default in the hotkey, when recording a task in the screenshot for as far as the relive applications go, you can hit your Control Shift and E in the default screenshot for as far as the Control Shift and I defaults. Known issues that are still prevalent among us as we come into this video. Tail end on patchwork before we go into our benchmarks, which is always very exciting to me. You can see the situations that they have inside the enhanced sync may cause the black screen to occur when enabling the games inside of the system configuration. Is the fix that always has been enhancing that sync. You should disable that as a temporary workaround. For as far as the metrics overlay and the Wattman, why Wattman should you say, or the incorrect reporting, that is more of the situation that is at hand for as far as the idle clock speeds on the RX 5700 series. For as far as the power consumption on that, sometimes it can be a little incorrect. Now looking at the Radeon software for as far as it may open when the inconsistent window size or may not keep its previous set size when opened. That sounds like a finger trap situation. That just, I don't know, man. That sounds confusing. No issues, though. Looking at the HDMI scaling sliders for as far as the FPS, it may become unlocked to 30, as well as the game exhibiting shutters for the intermediate during gameplay on the 5000 series of the RX line. Looking at the desktop and the in-game corruption for as far as what occurs in the intermediate portions of when HDR is enabled is also on the chopping block for them to be fixing, as well as the RX Vegas series graphics production. As far as their experience in TDR, it's also experiencing the same thing. It seems like a well-rounded thing. It seems like their TDR might be something they're trying to get under wraps. The workaround for us are experiencing that in the issues is disabling the instant replay. That will help out for as far as like bringing that down in the overhead. And then looking outside the situation of the system crashes and the hang up for as far as experiencing the Edge browser to play Netflix content. Looking at some users may experience the black screen and hang-ups during the experience gameplay on AMD is continuing to monitor and investigating parts possibly within that build. So definitely, reach out to them. They're really great people. They listen. They're cool. I'm sure that they got a lot of downtime themselves to spend listening to emails that they're getting right now. But looking at the situation of the ML media filters are the current unavailable with inside the situation of the software media galleries and the image content. Now looking at the footnotes that they give us before we cut out of this patch notes, they tell us that our situation was tested on an RX 5700 XT, and I've had my hands on a nice RX 5700 XT, and oh man, they're great cards. They're very interesting in that situation, but this is where we're getting our improvement portion of where they're looking at the 139.1 FPS versus the 133.1 FPS. That's a 5% uplift within their variation in their own creation, but the different cards are going to breed different results, and that's also why we're getting into it's benchmark time, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be looking into some stuff. Now, as I interluded and talked about in the very beginning, let's have a tech talk. Now, as you can see me still benching my RTX card, which I'll be getting into my NVIDIA patchwork after this, there are a lot of things that can come down to. So if you're experiencing a hang-up and you're like, what the heck, this wasn't like this before, there's some suggestible points that I can give you that will help. Look at what just updated. Was it the video game? Was it your PC? Was it like the application that opens these things like Steam? Utilizing that knowledge will give you a little bit of a hint of if something changed and it was working before, then always go with what just changed. So with getting into testing, one thing I did notice when utilizing the Firestrike versus the other ones, there was a clean increasement, and I was just like, what the heck? Work to work, what's going down? But let's look at our patchwork, shall we? With looking at the out the gate portions of what this testing ended up being, looking at Firestrike in the DirectX 11 field, you notice that it went down a lot, and I was like, wait, what's going on here? Because when you see scores that are dropping like this from a portion of just like Windows, where it's like, oh, okay, what the hell just happened to my card performance? And I thought it was like maybe I had a default setting, I reset my card, reinstalled it, and it was kind of the same thing what ended up happening. But check this out. So this is from last week's portion of like patchwork, where I was kind of able to pull up the test results, because this is what the test was. When I looked at the newer Adrenalin, like I was like, damn, that's like a pretty sexy score compared to the other one. And I ran it again just to be fair, since it's Firestrike, and you can see right there that there is a variant, but that's pretty consistent around the 2100 with inside of there. In fact, I would almost want to say that's about 21.5 trending towards 2175. For as far as its average performance, looking at that depending on what load you'd be getting into. So I thought that was really interesting, and the only consistent thing that changed between those times was what AMD, OBS, and a lot of other creators were fighting was really bad software writing from Windows. This last few patches have been crap. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat that. It's just been plain crap. Now you can see in the DirectX 11, when we go to our Firestrike Extreme, it trends again. You can see that it definitely gets a little bit more of an uplift in performance, but I do believe it's something that's related to Windows finally getting its synergy with the software. Firestrike Ultra also shows the same exact situation. Now with 4K, it's very noticeable because you see how it gets its uplift. It's quite noticeable that there's like almost about a 15 point right there increasement. So looking at things like that, you can kind of see that maybe it can breathe now, and when they were testing this stuff, I'm kind of curious what version of Windows they were on. Time Spy shows DirectX 12 at its finest, and it doesn't disappoint in the situation for as far as it being able to complete itself really well inside of this update. Let's go ahead and take a quicker look at these numbers a little deeper. As this was last week's, when you're looking at the improvement, yet again, raining across the situational points of fire on points. So not too bad. Now this is where it gets interesting. Time Spy Extreme is your 4K version of it, and you can kind of see where it can kind of excel and where it can definitely accelerate sometimes. This being the portion of where you would think would be the improvement, but that was last week's. Of what we're showing right now, and this is this week's. So the 20.3.1 actually shows a little bit of a decreasement, but not insane. I mean, you can kind of see right now where my processor is getting a lot more of that synergy portion of what's going down, versus from my graphics, it's like kind of like, maybe it's hitting a TDR issue, maybe, possibly, I don't know. I'd have to investigate that a little bit deeper. But end result, folks, should you install this one? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I very much encourage you guys and gals. Now, is there bugs and hiccups? Yes. You know, sometimes you're going to have that. But I think that one of the hardest jobs that I think a lot of software developers have that a lot of people forget is that, you know, it's not like Windows is hitting up AMD and being like, hey buddy, we're changing this. They're just like, oh shit, our people are talking about this weird thing that happened. What the hell just happened? And then they have to backtrack instead of there. So, you know, they're trying, and I did notice that there was a pretty decent performance synchronization with the newer Windows drivers and this brand new driver, so it works decent. Now, well, this changed next time I post another patch note, and then I don't know where this tanks because of Windows Update not syncing with what's going down now, possibly. That's why you need to tune in and see what's going down. Are your drivers performing? And that's what I'm here for, ladies and gentlemen. Have a very nice day. My name's Mac, and I appreciate you spending this much time into the channel within the tech-related information that I like to have the station of for you guys and gals. Now, if you're new to the network, you can always hit a like, share, and subscribe, and you can join today. And who knows, maybe if you do today, my 67K, I might just delid and put some liquid metal between that and maybe mirror shine the top of it, because I've been wanting to do it anyways. But for right now, that's my Mark 1 system. It's pretty reliable. It runs my GPUs quite fast. I would have knew a 67K, like in the architecture that they've had, where that would still be pretty decent nowadays. It just 4 cores and not as fast as you want it to, like, but it does a good job. Anyways, everyone, under 20 minutes. Have a nice day. Like, share, and subscribe if you're new to the network. That'd be great. You can totally support me, absolutely free. And if you do today, like I said, this might turn into a fun project. But I'll see you guys and gals in the near future. Stay classy and stay safe.